Remember
Fans
Lil
find
JJ, the 11-year-old comedy prodigy from Little Rock, Arkansas, who walked onto a BET stage and destroyed every adult comedian in sight. The kid who had Nickelodeon handing him his own sitcom within 2 years, only to vanish from Hollywood entirely by 2008. When the Quiet on Set documentary dropped in 2024, exposing decades of abuse at Nickelodeon, everyone expected Lil JJ to come forward with his own horror story. But what he actually said left people speechless and revealed a different kind of Hollywood nightmare altogether. Born James Charles Lewis III on Halloween night 1990, Little James discovered early that he possessed a gift that would both elevate and curse his childhood. He could make people genuinely laugh, not with typical kid jokes that adults politely chuckled at, but with sophisticated, observational comedy that left grown-ups speechless. By age 8, he was performing at local talent shows and church events, crafting material that could make adults forget their problems while his friends played video games. Teachers noticed something unusual during show-and-tell presentations, where other children stumbled through prepared speeches. James delivered perfectly timed observations about school life that had his classmates rolling in the aisles, earning him a reputation not as a disruptive class clown, but as someone whose humor was sophisticated, observational, and never mean-spirited. The first time 9-year-old James performed at a local talent show, barely tall enough to reach the microphone without standing on a box, the audience expected cute childhood antics, but instead witnessed a 5-minute set about the differences between how kids and adults view the world that was both original and electric. Word spread throughout Little Rock's small entertainment scene about the elementary school kid who could perform like a seasoned professional. And when he took the stage at a family-friendly comedy showcase in front of over 200 adults, what they witnessed was a 10-year-old boy commanding the room like a veteran performer, earning a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. In 2003, when James was just 11, his family learned about BET's Coming to the Stage talent search and recorded his audition in their modest Arkansas home. With no fancy equipment or professional coaching, just raw talent captured on a basic camera. And when the call came that BET wanted him in Los Angeles for the live competition, Lewis family home, while Hollywood scouts made pilgrimages to Arkansas carrying contracts that promised generational wealth, painting pictures of a future where James would star in movies and host television shows. The numbers were staggering to a working-class family from Arkansas, and 14-year-old James, now performing under the stage name Lil JJ, was insistent that his destiny lay in entertainment. So in late 2004, the Lewis family packed their belongings and moved to Los Angeles, a transition that was jarring, as Arkansas represented safety and familiarity, while Los Angeles was a different world, where the entertainment industry operated by rules no one bothered to explain to newcomers. Lil JJ began auditioning for television shows, and his comedy background gave him an advantage, marking him as different. While other kids learned to deliver scripted lines, he was improvising and adding his own flair to characters, which caught Nickelodeon's attention as the network struggled to recapture the magic that had made them dominant in children's television. When Lil JJ auditioned for All That in early 2005, something clicked during his final audition, and Nickelodeon executives were impressed, not just by his comedic abilities, but by his professionalism and work ethic, offering him a spot on the show's 10th season, hosting the Vital Information segment. All That provided him with national exposure that transformed him from a regional comedy sensation into a recognizable television personality, his segments showcasing his natural charisma to millions of viewers every week. But the experience also introduced him to the complex machinery of children's television production, where sets were controlled by adults who viewed child performers as products rather than people, with grueling schedules and constant pressure to remain funny, charming, and marketable. Still, Lil JJ thrived. His segments consistently performed well in ratings, and network research showed viewers specifically tuned in to watch his content, prompting Nickelodeon executives to offer him something unprecedented for someone so young: his own sitcom. On January 7, 2007, Just Jordan premiered on Nickelodeon to respectable ratings that exceeded network expectations. Following Jordan Lewis, a 16-year-old boy who moves from Arkansas to Los Angeles to live with his grandfather and work in the family diner. A premise loosely based. Impressive track record including Moesha and the Proud Family, providing some protection from toxic environments. But it didn't eliminate the overwhelming pressure on a teenager carrying the enormous responsibility of determining whether dozens of cast and crew members would continue working. The show's second season began airing in September 2007, with more ambitious storylines, and critics continued to praise the show while ratings remained steady. But then disaster struck when the 2007-08 Writers Guild of America strike began on November 5th, shutting down production on virtually every scripted television program for 100 days. For established shows with loyal audiences, the strike represented a temporary setback. But for newer programs, still building their viewer base, the interruption was potentially fatal. And Just Jordan lost crucial momentum as viewers who found other programming during the strike didn't automatically return when new episodes finally began airing. Nickelodeon executives, facing budget pressures and uncertain ratings, made a cold business decision. And despite 29 episodes across 2 seasons, despite positive reviews, and despite Lil JJ's committed performance, Just Jordan was canceled, the final episode airing on August 23, 2008, when Lil JJ was 18 years old, legally an adult, but still emotionally processing the loss of the platform that had defined his teenage years. What was more troubling was what happened next, or rather what didn't happen. In Hollywood, canceled shows are usually followed by new opportunities for talented performers. But for Lil JJ, the period following Just Jordan's cancellation was marked by an eerie silence, as phone calls from casting directors stopped coming, auditions became rare, and projects that seemed promising mysteriously stalled or moved forward with other actors, essentially blacklisting him from the industry he had conquered as a child. The reasons for this sudden career freeze were never officially explained, with industry insiders whispering various explanations, but the reality was more complex. Lil JJ had entered the entertainment industry as a child prodigy whose natural talent and independent thinking made adults uncomfortable, as he had never been content to simply follow directions or deliver lines exactly as written, his comedy background having taught him to think creatively and trust his instincts. In an industry built on control, Lil JJ's independence was seen as a threat, as response was swift and merciless. If Lil JJ wouldn't be a cooperative child star, then he wouldn't be a star at all. And during this period of professional exile, he enrolled at Arkansas Baptist College, joined the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and began speaking more openly about his experiences as a child performer, discussing the pressures of carrying a television show and the difficulty of transitioning from child star to adult performer. Honest reflections that, while emotionally healthy, marked him as someone who might expose uncomfortable truths about how young people were treated in Hollywood. For over a decade, Lil JJ navigated the entertainment industry's wilderness, taking small roles when offered, appearing on reality shows like Wild and Out, and continuing to perform stand-up comedy in clubs across the country, surviving but no longer thriving. In March 2024, everything changed when the Quiet on Set documentary premiered on Investigation Discovery, exposing decades of abuse, exploitation, and systematic dysfunction at Nickelodeon, revealing Dan Schneider as someone who had created toxic work environments, and Drake Bell's horrific story of abuse by dialogue coach Brian Peck, beginning when Bell was just 15. And as the documentary gained national attention, people began asking questions about other former Nickelodeon stars, tagging Lil JJ in social media posts and asking him to share his own experiences. The pressure for Lil JJ to respond became overwhelming, as the assumption that all former Nickelodeon child stars were automatically victims created pressure for him to either claim victimhood he hadn't experienced or risk seeming unsympathetic to actual survivors. And on March 20th, 2024, Lil JJ finally broke his silence with a Facebook post that stunned everyone. "Just Jordan got canceled. I ain't giving up no ass, lol." The crude phrasing shocked people who remembered him as a clean-cut child performer, but the message was clear. Lil JJ was stating that he had not been sexually abused during his time at Nickelodeon, pushing back against the assumption that all former child stars were victims, and the response was immediate and polarized, with some praising him for speaking his truth, while others criticized the crude language and accused him of being insensitive to actual survivors. But Lil JJ's statement revealed something more complex than a simple denial of abuse. It was a declaration of independence from the abuse, but through systematic exclusion, deliberate neglect, and the quiet assassination of a career that refused to conform to their expectations, taking one of the most talented young performers of his generation and making him irrelevant simply because he would not submit to their control. His crude but honest response, revealing that the industry's mistreatment of child performers was more sophisticated than most people realized, as they didn't need to abuse every young performer to maintain control, just destroy a few careers publicly enough to serve as examples for others. Lil JJ had been made an example of what happened to child stars who thought they could maintain their independence while working in Hollywood. But his willingness to speak honestly about his experiences represented a form of victory the industry hadn't anticipated. They had silenced his career, but hadn't silenced his voice. And in many ways, that was an even more damning indictment of how Hollywood treats its young stars who dare to think for themselves.